Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Train Sim World 2 here on the channel. Today we are starting in Cumberland Yard, operating the SD 40-2 8427 here on CSX, and we're just starting our journey here as an engineer. Here is the beautiful train we are operating today, and we are headed out to the Hyndman Switch to go pick up some cars that need inspection. And we are going to be bringing them back here to Cumberland Yard. So let's go ahead and get this journey started. Alright, so they give us everything to do here, but kind of already know this. Ditch lights on. Gauge lights are on. And then we got to set the headlights to bright. Actually, we are working with the cab driver today, so I can do that with that. Fuel generator on, cut in valve, we got to switch to freight, and the reverser handle is in. Let's go ahead, set that to forward, and time to release the brakes. Automatic release will let the brake pipes charge up. Release the independent as well. Give the horn 2 times. And now we just gotta wait for dispatch to give us clearance.
CSX 551 requesting a track warrant from Cumberland Terminal to Hyndman. Over.
X551, subject to signal indications. Proceed from Cumberland Terminal as far as Cumberland Station. Wait there for eastbound Q116 to pass. Then proceed to Hyndman. Over.
X551, subject to signal indications, proceeding from Cumberland Terminal to Cumberland Station. Await passage of eastbound Q116, then proceed to Hyndman. Out.
There we have it. Heading it to Hyndman Station, waiting for a train to pass. Let's get this journey started. Alright, so we got about 2 miles before we get out of the yard here. We're just going to pretty much be going between notch 1 and neutral here between the throttle, as we have a 15-mile-an-hour limit here in the yard, and then that will bump up once we get out. But right around where we get out, that is where we're going to have to sit and wait for the eastbound train at Cumberland Station. We can go ahead and open up the windows here, and just to our right we have an intermodal headed into Cumberland Yard coming off of the main track. And I'm going to guess that this is probably the train we're going to have to stop and wait for. And here is the last of the train that's passing us by, so maybe we don't actually have to stop here at all. We'll see. I had the notification disappear, but we still have a red signal coming up in about half a mile though, so we still have to be prepared to stop pretty soon here. Alright, so let's go ahead, throw her in idle. Coming up here, just about 150 yards. We're not going too fast, plus we're uphill. 0.5% grade, so we'll just use our momentum here to slow us down most of the way and brake when we get a little closer here, as we might actually almost come to a stop before we even get there. Down to 7 miles an hour. We'll set some initial reduction here. Coming up. And let's go ahead, give her full service. Alright, so we've come to a stop. We actually had to put it in emergency, otherwise we were going to start rolling backwards. Never underestimate, again, how long it takes to stop a train, even if it's just 2 engines. Alright guys, so I may be an idiot and definitely didn't look at our map, but if you see, we need to travel somewhere 753 yards away. Yeah, we need to go pick up the load of cars right here, and we were supposed to stop a while back. But nonetheless, we got all the switches set. All we got to do is back up to where they're at, so let's go pick up those cars. Alright, so it turns out we didn't need to hook up to any cars yet. We just needed to get over to this side of the track so we could get over to Heinemann, which is what we are doing now. Took us a little longer to get here than expected, but we're all set, and we're ready to set off onto this main leg of the journey. Let's head out. Alright, so we're coming up on these red signals again. This time we actually will have to wait for them to pass since we are going this way. So we'll throw this thing into idle. Independent brake is fully applied. We're slowing down here. Looks like that's the train we're going to have to wait for coming up. And we might be able to actually stop here without having to throw on the automatic. We will have to put it in emergency, though, just to hold it on this hill, as we were sliding down before. But it looks like we're going to stop here, no problem, as this train is going to pass us by. Alright, so that train has passed. We have the green signal. 2 horns. Starting to slide backwards already due to that hill, but we'll put this in notch 2 here. And that will get us going, and we are headed to the Narrows in 1.1 miles, and just past that will be where we need to go to finally pick up that cargo load that we need to get. Alright, so we have left Heinemann. We are headed to the Narrows, about 500 yards away, and we're starting this initial climb into the mountain range here. It's not too steep now, only about 0.4% grade. We're not going all the way up, but I have driven some auto rack trains up this hill. It gets pretty steep to where you're only going 15 miles an hour at notch 8. So it definitely is a beast of its own here, as we're getting nearer here to our location, and we will get our next directions after that. Next signal is green in 2.5 miles, and our speed is bumping up to 35 in just over 1 mile. As coming up on the Narrows here, and there we go. Alright, next location for us is Ellerslie in 2.5 miles, and I don't think we're going to have any signals we have to stop at. Our route seems pretty clear from dispatcher right now, so I think we are all set to go there. Some absolutely beautiful scenery that we are driving through here in this area headed up to Ellerslie. As there we go, we've hit the new speed limit. We're up to 35. The train has fully passed through, so let's go ahead. We'll bump this thing up to notch 3, and we are smooth sailing. In 1.8 miles, we will be at Ellerslie. And another train here passing us up on our left. Starting to climb up there in speed a little, so we're just going to go ahead, throw this thing back into neutral or idle. and just try to maintain our speed here. There's not much of a gradient headed up. And you can quickly see to how fast the gradient changes. We were just running 34 on a 0% gradient, jumped up to a 1% and then back down to a 7%. So we're back up to notch 3 here. As we are coming up on a 50-mile-an-hour limit, we are getting very close to Ellerslie though here. The limit and Ellerslie will be at about the same location. And there's the sign. Just wait for the last engine to pass. We are up to 50 miles an hour, so let's throw this thing into notch 3. We're going up in 0.8% grade anyway, so we could use the power coming up here on the location at Ellerslie. And we will go ahead and get our next instructions once we pass our mark here. Alright, so once we pass through this town of Ellerslie, our next stop is going to be, well, not stop, but we will be going to Cook Mills. Alright, up a 0.4% grade here. We've been holding just at about between 40 and 42 miles an hour, and we're coming up on our location, Cook Mills. And we got a green signal in front of us, 1.3 miles ahead. So we should be getting our next instructions here once we reach Cook Mills in just about 150 yards. So they think we're running great so far. We just have 2 more places to drive through. We got Wills Creek. Hindman is after that, and once we reach Hindman, that is, of course, where we will find Hindman Switch. And we will back into the 3 cars we have to pick up there. So not much longer here until we reach our final destination. So after that, we have just under 3 miles to go here to Hindman, and we are almost speeding here. Wasn't looking at my speed. Let's go ahead and throw that in idle. Green signal ahead of us here in just under 300 yards, and after that, we'll get our next signal. We should be all clear to reach Hindman, where we will find our final destination in the switch. And we have an approach with caution here in just under 1.5 miles. Now, the one thing about this game is that they don't really enforce the approach with cautions. It's more so just like a heads up. You may be stopping next signal, you may not be, but correct me if I'm wrong, but I do believe in real life approach with caution comes with a 30-mile-an-hour speed limit. So I think we might go ahead, we might just apply that to this scenario just to try to keep it realistic, because there's no point in having an approach with caution and still being able to go 50 miles an hour if you need to all of a sudden stop at the next signal. So we'll go ahead and follow that 30-mile-an-hour rule with the approach with caution signal ahead in just over 1/2 mile. And it's looking like Notch 2 right now is going to keep us there, going up at a 0.6% grade. I think this will be just dandy for us as we're starting to slow down just a tad bit, but coming up on that signal here. And we will just try to maintain the speed here as we're coming up on Hindman in 1.2 miles. So Notch 2, like I said, it's working just great for us. It's been holding us steady here at 31 miles an hour. Next signal is approach with caution with a 25-mile-an-hour limit beyond it. But we are probably going to end up being just short of that, as we're going to be reaching Hindman here in just over 1/2 mile. We're coming up on another crossing here. Let's go ahead and give it the signal. 2 long, short, and a long. And hold this last one through the crossing, and there we go. Under 100 yards to go to Hindman.
The This is X551 approaching Hindman. Requesting permission to stop and run back into the siding in Hindman. Over.
X551, subject to signal indications. Stop and run back into the siding. Over.
X551, subject to signal indications, proceeding with stop and run back. Out.
Alright, so we're here in Hindman, just a mile out from the siding. And we have got permission to stop and back in. Let's bump this up to notch 2. We're up a 1.3% grade here. Steepest we've seen yet so far, as we're actually losing speed pretty quickly here. And we got 0.8 miles to go to the siding. Want to try to keep the speed right around here, as we do have a 25-mile-an-hour speed limit that is going to take in effect just before we get to the switch. And we are still losing speed here, so let's bump this up to notch 3 here. See if we can try to get some of this back. There we go. Back up to 18. See if we can, okay, up to 19. We're slowly getting speed back here. So we'll just hang out between notch 3 and notch 2 here. Coming up on some crossing grades in town. Let's go ahead, give them the signal. And I'm gonna guess those are the cars right there in the siding that we are going to be backing into. Let's knock this down back to notch 2 just to keep us under 25. And those would indeed be the cars that we are going to be picking up here. Needing to stop in just over 700 yards. Alright, just coming up on the left, if you can see it, speed limit dropping down to 25. We are already there though. That looks like the truck too that is going to pick our crew up. And here comes the speed change. We are ready for it though, sitting at 23, 24. Let's go ahead, knock this back into notch 2, and all we have to do is stop just ahead and get into the siding. Alright, so we're going uphill, so it should be easy, but I should have started stopping a while ago. We're just going to throw some dynamic brakings. Actually, we don't need dynamic brakes. We're going to use the automatic brake here. And yeah, I started stopping way too late, guys. I was a little preoccupied with talking. So I'm just going to throw this in emergency because we don't want to roll back down either. Just yet, at least. And that's going to stop us there. Alright, so the switch is set. Let's go ahead, put this thing into reverse. Back in idle, that should be important. Go ahead, sound the horn twice. And release the automatic. And already you can see we are rolling back down. And we have the independent fully applied here. So let's try some dynamic braking. See if that is going to help us at all. Finally, notch 6 for independent brake is starting to slow us down. So let's pump this down to 5. And yeah, we're picking up speed. So notch 6 is where it's at. Alright, coming up on the cars here. Up in notch 7 for dynamic braking, I'd like to try to get under 3. Let's get some initial reduction here. That should be slow enough. We're going to back into them. And let's hit the emergency. Put that back into idle. And there we go. Alright, into neutral. Let's set this to full service. And we'll go ahead and switch everything off here. Did not want you to go to notch 1. Ditch lights off. Gauge lights off. Alright. It has been good work, Bill. Don't know if Bill is your actual name or not, but let's go ahead, climb down the locomotive. And there is the crew. How do we... Can we get over the fence? No, we can't. Oh, okay. Well, there we go. We got quite a bit more of CSX operations to work with. So if you guys enjoyed, be sure to comment, like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.